What happens when the daughter of one of the most powerful preachers in the world finally decides to break her silence? After years of whispers, struggles, and speculation, Sarah Jakes is now speaking out about her father, Bishop T.D. Jakes, and what she reveals could shake the church world to its core. This isn't just another family story. It's a revelation that could change the way you see one of the most influential ministries of our time. Sarah Jakes, the youngest daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, has lived much of her life in the public eye. From her early struggles as a teen mom to her transformation into a preacher, author, and leader in her own right, she has always been a figure of both controversy and inspiration. But behind the glamour of the Potter's house, behind the massive sermons and worldwide recognition, Sarah's journey has not been as picture-perfect as many assumed. At the age of 37, she has finally decided to speak out on what it truly meant growing up as Bishop Jakes' daughter, the challenges she faced in ministry, and the untold truths about her father that no one dared to address. Growing up as the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes wasn't just about privilege, it came with a tremendous weight. Imagine being the child of one of the most respected preachers in the world, where every move, every mistake, and every decision is magnified under a public microscope. For Sarah, this reality became painfully clear at a very young age. By the time she was just 13, Sarah had already faced a life-changing event, becoming a teenage mother. The news shocked the church community and put her in the spotlight in ways she wasn't prepared for. Critics pointed fingers, some questioning Bishop Jakes' leadership, others labeling Sarah as a failure before her life had even begun. The whispers inside the church halls were relentless. And for a young girl, this wasn't just gossip, it was trauma. But instead of allowing shame to completely define her, Sarah began a quiet journey of resilience. She battled depression, insecurity, and the fear that she would never live up to the Jakes family name. These hidden struggles became the foundation for the raw honesty she's known for today. And what she later revealed about how her father responded and the tension it created within their family shines a new light on Bishop Jakes, both as a father and as a spiritual leader. Sarah's story didn't remain in the shadows of shame, it became the very thing that propelled her into ministry. After her teenage pregnancy, she wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, believing she had disqualified herself from ever stepping into leadership. But instead of hiding her scars, she started to share them, first in small conversations, then through blogs, and eventually in books and sermons. Unlike the polished preaching of her father's generation, Sarah's voice was raw and authentic. She admitted her fears, confessed her mistakes, and spoke about brokenness in a way that resonated deeply with young women across the globe. Her boldness to share her story began to shift how people viewed her, not just as T.D. Jakes' daughter, but as a leader in her own right. Still, her rise did not come without resistance. Some in the church whispered that she was too worldly, pointing to her fashion choices, her social media presence, and her willingness to address taboo topics like depression, relationships, and sexuality. Others believed she was riding on her father's name rather than earning her place, and even within the family, there were tensions. Sarah's insistence on vulnerability and transparency clashed with her father's more traditional and guarded approach to ministry. As Sarah's influence grew, she created something the world hadn't seen before: Women Evolve. What began as small gatherings grew into a global movement transforming women's ministry. Unlike traditional church conferences, Women Evolve embraced transparency, relatability, and authenticity. Sarah built a space where women could show up with their scars, their doubts, and their brokenness and still feel seen. By 2018, Women Evolve had exploded into one of the fastest-growing Christian movements in America. Viral sermons, best-selling books, and sold-out conferences made Sarah a powerhouse in her own right. But with her success came more scrutiny. Some accused her of being too motivational and not spiritual enough. Others whispered that her rising influence caused friction in church circles, and perhaps even within her own family. Was she continuing her father's legacy or creating a new one altogether? For years, speculation swirled about Sarah's relationship with Bishop Jakes. She rarely spoke about him outside of expected tributes or acknowledgments, but at 37 she finally broke her silence. In a deeply vulnerable message, she admitted that living in her father's shadow was not only overwhelming but often isolating. She spoke of moments when she doubted whether she was truly called by God or just expected to carry on the family legacy. Then she delivered a line that shook her audience. "For a long time I thought my father's shadow was too big for me to ever step out of. But then I realized God didn't call me to live in his shadow. He called me to create my own light." Those words ignited a storm of conversation. Sarah wasn't tearing her father down, she honored him, but she made it clear that her path had to be different. Her ministry wasn't a copy of the Potter's house. It was her own vision, her own calling, and her own destiny. The internet exploded with reactions. Some praised her courage to be transparent, while others accused her of publicly distancing herself from her father's covering. Yet one thing was undeniable: Sarah Jakes Roberts had stepped fully into her own voice. Her honesty resonated with thousands of young women and pastors' kids who admitted they too had felt crushed under the weight of expectations. Sarah cracked open a long-suppressed conversation. What does it mean to carry a famous name while still trying to find your own voice? Even more powerful was Bishop Jakes' reported response. Instead of silencing her or overshadowing her, he stood by her, showing that true legacy isn't about control, it's about empowerment. Sarah's boldness sparked a generational shift in how people viewed faith, leadership, and authenticity. Her words reminded the world that perfection isn't the requirement for God's calling, availability is. She inspired those who had walked away from church, those who thought they'd never measure up, to return and believe again. She proved that scars don't disqualify you, they prepare you. Sarah Jakes Roberts has now become a voice for a new generation of believers, one unafraid of honesty, one unafraid of redefining what it means to be a leader. And in doing so, she changed not only how the world sees her, but also how they see Bishop T.D. Jakes. His legacy isn't just in the sermons he preached or the empire he built, it's also in the daughter who found her own voice and carried the message into a new era. So now the question is, did Sarah's words signal a generational shift in the church, or was this simply a daughter speaking her truth? Was this a moment of healing, or a sign of deeper cracks in modern church culture? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: Sarah Jakes Roberts has stepped out of the shadows and into her own light, and the world will never see her or Bishop T.D. Jakes the same way again.